Talk to me about Antifa for a second, because one of the interesting phenomenons with Black Lives Matter is they do exactly what you described. They hijack spontaneous protest. In my opinion, that makes it more evil because they're exploiting the emotion that people are feeling in order to achieve their own political agenda, their nefarious political agenda. And we've been able to trace back the etymology of Black Lives Matter to these Marxists that founded the movement. And, it's helped destroy that movement, honestly, to expose their hypocrisy, to expose their Marxism. We've never been able to do that with Antifa. We've never been able to trace it back to a single source or a single group of people. How come?
Because it's very deliberate. Because they know that when you have kind of a national Antifa leader, there's going to be a lot of scrutiny, especially with kind of the ideas that they want to put forth. I mean, it's not even just like progressivism. It's this weird mixture of anarcho-communism, and it's really fascinating. And so they know that if they were to get more organized on a vertical level, that it would be easier for, and not like the FBI is going to crack down on them. They're too busy dealing with
parents at school boards.
Parents at school boards, yeah. But let's say if there was a competent federal law enforcement agency like that, so they so that's what I was saying. They definitely are good at being able to prevent law enforcement from getting their arms around them, and so, but then at the same time, it doesn't even really matter, because even on the local level, because as we saw in Portland, people get arrested, get their mugshot taken. It's like, okay, now you're done. And
it's like a badge of honor. But is that reality? Is there actually not organized leadership? Because I personally find that very hard to believe that Antifa would engage in the tactics that they are, the very deliberate tactics with this very odd combination of ideologies, this anarcho-communism, as you describe it, and that it wouldn't have been suggested or taught by some person, some group, some entity, some website.
Yeah. So yeah, they do have some websites, and like I said, there's no national leadership, but that doesn't mean that there's no local leadership. And so there's different groups. I mean, even Portland has like 3 to 4 different Antifa groups. I mean, there's a Rose City Antifa, there's a Pacific Northwest Youth Liberation Front. So they each kind of have their own ways of doing stuff, but and so because that they have no national leadership or more of a concrete vertical command structure, that is also one of their biggest weaknesses. And I actually saw that when I was in Portland on January 20th, when they were rioting, just because Joe Biden was being inaugurated that day. And so, because we were literally, I was with the initial crowd. They all agreed to gather at this one place, and then they just started marching, but then they had no idea where they wanted to go. And so each kind of the different factions were giving ideas and all this stuff. And it was really funny because there was a transgender Black woman who was trying to speak, and some of the whiter counterparts just started walking away, and so they're like, hey, she's speaking, how could you ignore her? And then they were saying, we don't care. So they're as much as Antifa is a threat, and I'm not trying to downplay that, they also are just kind of comical in that they're very radical ideologies, because that was to some of them, they were committing this grave sin by ignoring a Black transgender person, but they didn't care because they were trying to carry out some actions against the state. So it's really fascinating. But yeah, no. So it's very deliberate that they break down into these very different cells, because they don't want to have the entire organization come crumbling down if they were to take action, if the law enforcement were to take harsher action.